Okay, there we go. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining on this Friday afternoon. I will be leading us through a quick refresher and then go through some of the updated content that we've added to the online application since last year. For the most part, it will look pretty similar for anyone who went through things last year with really just one major content addition that we will get into. So starting out, this is the landing page for the application portal. So once you enter the RHTC application from Access Indiana, you will land here. Normally, you would just, if you're starting a new application, you would click New Application here. I'm not going to do that as to not create a new record. I will just go to the My Applications section. Which one did I want? This one, recently viewed. And I'll just go through one that I've already created. One thing that got brought up as a note that I kind of forgot was a request to get added last year, but we have worked on that pretty quickly to get it, is if you come up here on these views and go to My Applications and pin that, you will get an updated list here where it won't just have your application ID, account, whatever, but the second section right here will actually be the application or the development name. So it should make things a lot easier to, if you have multiple applications that you're working on, it'll make it a lot easier to remember which one it is rather than having to remember just this application ID number. But we'll jump into this one. As a reminder, there are multiple ways once you've created an app to go and actually update certain pages on it. One is through the application quick links. This takes you to each page like individually, where you can make edits to just that page. The other is if you go up here in the top right corner and you click the edit application button. This kind of takes you back through the whole application as if you had just clicked the new application button. So if you are extra familiar with the layout from last year, you might notice that there are a few less sections here on the right. That's the bulk of the update to the content in this initial part of the application. We actually were able to reduce the amount of pages and also get rid of some questions that have been moved specifically into the new scoring section that we developed. We just thought it made sense to remove them from this section of the application as they pertain only to scoring, and there was no point in really duplicating your efforts and having to answer a question in this section and then also, self-score for a section. They kind of did the same thing twice. I'm kind of only going to go through these pretty quickly just to kind of show what looks new. I think we still have our overview from last year up, so you can refer to that one if you need a more in-depth of the different sections. This will be where I will point out, we sent out a notice this morning just to let everyone know that we are aware of an issue where some of the pages do not appear to be saving when you input stuff on them. I don't believe this development information page is one of them, which, as you can see, it's still showing some stuff when I was in here earlier. But on these next few pages, every time you will go to them, it will appear as if nothing has been entered. Funnily enough, some of these yes/no questions save. We are currently working with our IT team and Salesforce to try and figure out exactly what's going on. It seems to have stumped even people at Salesforce, so that's awesome. But one thing that we do know is what it appears to be doing is it's not that it's not saving, it's just that every time you would click this section, it's creating a new record of this page entirely. So it's not fetching whatever you had put in previously. That being said, since we know this is an issue, similar to last year, the Excel Form A is what we will be using to make final determinations when it comes to technical deficiencies. So as long as the Form A that you submit as part of your application submission is the correct information, you will not be dinged by anything that doesn't appear to be saving or is slightly potentially off from what you have on that Excel Form A. So with that being said, kind of go through some of these next few pages to get to some of the new content. It mostly comes on the threshold page in this section. So just scrolling through some of these to get to the threshold page. The main addition here is we added a few new questions to the mandatory acknowledgements section. Some of these are semi-related to scoring items, but there's still a threshold component. One being the broadband infrastructure. It's been moved to threshold, so it is a requirement for everyone to do. So we added that to the mandatory acknowledgements. On the scoring section, if you are claiming points for internet, you would claim which item or items you are doing there. Similar with universal design, it is a threshold requirement to do a minimum of 6 universal design features, so we added that here as a mandatory acknowledgement. And then on the score sheet, if you go above that, you will make your election for how many of those features you plan to do. We are going to work on getting like this visibility mandate and the home and housing trust fund probably moved up a bit and out of the mandatory acknowledgements, just because they don't apply to every project. We kind of want this section to be things that no matter what type of project you're doing, these are things you'd have to check off. Where so we don't expect, if you are not receiving CDA home or housing trust fund, we don't expect you to check this box. You only have to do these two if they apply to your project, which is why we are looking to move them out of mandatory, because it's technically not mandatory for all projects. Moving on, there are these next few pages. It will look a lot shorter, and that's mostly because they had questions that we removed because, as I said earlier, they are mostly just accounted for in scoring. This, I can't even remember what the name of this page was, but we just changed it to rental assistance because it's the only section that remained from what that page was previously. And then other is simply just the section for you to tell us which certifications you are claiming points for, and if you're an integrated supportive housing development, how many total units you have for that. The rest of the application is pretty much the exact same as what it was last year, so no significant changes made really for the rest of this section, but I will still just go through for a quick overview so you can see what they still look like. I don't think there were any even format changes really done to any of these sections. So this is where you can add the income and expenses. Again, this is one of the more data heavy sections where you would select your AMI level here, and then by bedroom type and number and rent amount would add all that information here. So if you have a lot of different units at different AMIs charging different rents, different bedroom numbers, you could have quite a few entries on this page. The annual expense information, then the next for all your sources, add those here. And then these last 2 pages are just for if you are a bond deal. So that is just a quick, recap of that initial part of the application. As a reminder, that does not mean you have completed the application. There are still a few sections that we would that we need you to fill out. And again, you get those by when you are on the application ID link, you go to related to get to the extension. You can go straight to that from the My Application extensions if you can remember which code that is. I honestly don't even look at that section that often, so there might be some ways similar to on My Applications where we could get the application name added as a field next to each application extension to make it easier to quickly get to these sections. So then as a reminder, from here we have the Proforma up here. These numbers pull from the annual expense section, but as you saw, since I did not put anything in there, nothing carried forward there. And then the document checklist for you to upload all supporting documentation for all the sections of the QAP, which, as a reminder, technically doesn't match what's in the QAP because the QAP language still refers to things as tabs due to the timing of when the last QAP was finalized to when we went live with the online application. We weren't able to get that language mirrored. Going forward, though, with the new QAP next year, we do plan to have the document upload or the location language in the QAP to match what is in the QAP or the online app. And then similar, if you have a development fund or if you're requesting development fund or home funds, there are also those supplemental applications that you can access from up here. And then the last two sections will be the new application review scores, but we'll go over that last since that is the newest piece. And then also the further down, the itemized cost section, where you enter all the itemized cost information, which will also show your eligible basis, your federal credit determination page, as well as the state credit determination page if you are a competitive state tax credit application. But to jump into the new stuff, we have the new application section. You'll have to click the little, edit thing for this stuff to pop up, and I think you have to do that on each individual page. So let's see. Oh no. So if you just jump between pages, it'll keep it up to be able to edit it. You don't have to click save on everyone. I'd kind of recommend it just in case so you don't forget to save at any point in time. But it's pretty much exactly what's in that self-score sheet at the early part of the Form A. So you have all the elections here for your rent restrictions, and then we kind of reduced a lot of these when possible to just kind of yes or no questions to where like, are you claiming points in this section? We tried to utilize these little info circles as best we could to give you a little more information for exactly what it is, but everything also I think does a pretty good job of just flowing exactly with what's in the QAP by section. So if you ever have questions, we try to, you have the number and the heading sections here for reference to go to the QAP to see exactly what might be required for that. And then based off of your response here, once you hit save, I guess that is an important thing to note. Once you hit save, it will auto-populate these numbers. So if you just make these make a selection. So if you just do no here and then move on to the next page, I don't believe it will have saved it. Yeah, so you'd have to go click save, then it will adjust to whatever election that you made over here. So just to kind of give a quick overview of how these look. Some of these, we'll still have you tell us, and you might have seen it in the main section, like with the amenities. You have 3 columns to make selections from. So you will still do that in that part of the application, but here you're just essentially saying, will you hit 10 total, yes or no, to get the corresponding amount of points. The accessible and adaptable units scoring category is one of the few where both are text boxes. We ask in this first one for you to tell us what percentage of the units will be type A or type B, and then the corresponding amount of points that would go with that percentage based off of your project. Copying that entire chart that has multiple different avenues to get different amount of points proved quite difficult to actually get in here. And our kind of idea is that this is more just you kind of have an idea of that scoring category, make your election, and it gives you the points. And if you need to refer to what actually qualifies for what amount of points in that you would be looking at the QAP. So universal design, as I said, we added that to the mandatory acknowledgements. This is where if you are claiming more you make that election and get the corresponding amount of points. The vacant, preservation, all those sections. Most of these are on this section are pretty self-explanatory. If you have all the options for the building certification, or if you're going to do an equivalent, there's a text box there for you to fill that out as well. Going on to the next one, market characteristics. So for these first three, we left these as text boxes, mostly to help accommodate scattered site projects to where you might not always have an even 2 points or not. It could be decimal or fraction points. So to help accommodate that, we kept these as text boxes. So this is where you would put how many points you are claiming. That one's just another selection. So opportunity index and housing need is where we get to our first two pick lists. So all of the options will originally be here on the left side. And if there's one that you are claiming points for, you would simply just click it and then click this little arrow to move it over. And then once you click save, it will update that. Although I kind of hate how it takes you out of that. So as you can see now, 3 points, 3 things over here on this section. I think there's one more category that acts like this outside of these two, and those would be done the same way. For the jobs number section, again, these are just text boxes. We just ask for you to put how many points you are claiming or that you qualify for here, and then we will verify that, which that is one thing. So if you have noticed, it's in the Excel version, we have the self-score and then the IHCDA score section. There are IHCDA score things here, can't think of a better word, sorry, that are just hidden. We have the ability to hide those so that when we go in and put in our initial scores before we would send out scoring letters, it doesn't just become immediately available. So that way we can choose the appropriate time when we're ready to send out scoring letters for everyone to be able to come back in here and see what our score was compared to your self score. And then I think okay, 2 more pages real quick. Leveraging is another one where we ask that you do the percentage of leveraged funds in this first section and how many points that corresponds to here. The rest of this page is just making a selection. And then on the last page, it's the certifications. So we are aware of this. So currently one of these is giving you 2 points and one's giving you 1. That's why it says 3. That should be updated here very shortly. And that should retroactively be fixed. So you don't have to worry about making sure you come back in and having that somehow be a 2. It should just start being 2 if you have both of the management certs. Resident services, this is the one where we are not asking for it. You would not put this in the main app, and it will basically do math based off of what you put in here. So it'll give you half a point for each, as the category is. It'll give you half a point for the total amount you put for level 1 services and 1 point each for the level 2 services totaling here. So it is important that you do that correctly in the self-score section. And then the rest of these, I believe, are just making elections until you get to the readiness to proceed, where, make all the elections that you are claiming, and it will give you the corresponding amount of points over here. So that is mostly it for the new scoring section. As you can see at the top, it constantly gives you subtotals of each page and what your total score is. Again, that only updates if you push save. So while anything I would have done while the edit function is open will not be reflected up here. It's also partially why I would recommend each time you're done with the page, you click save. So that is kind of the bulk of it. I will pause now for if anyone has any questions about any sections in particular. I'd say use the raise hand function and we will call on anyone that has a question. Yes, Ashley.
Hi. So thank you for the presentation. This is my first time working in the online system, and I was just wondering if you could walk through once more where each of these sections can be found. I'm familiar with like the new application tab, but then, where specifically to get into the scoring, and there was another section that you showed as well.
Yeah. So I'll just go here again from the My Application section. I forgot that I have this one pinned. So I think I'm working and I can't remember which one it is. Go ahead and pin that. Oh, 93396. So once you click the application link there, this is the easiest spot to edit any of that initial application information, so through quick links or the edit application button. Otherwise, you then click related and the application extension. And like I had mentioned, My Application extensions should just have all these extensions listed there. I just never go there. That's, I guess, personal preference. But once you're in the extension, to get to scoring, you then click related again, and it should be the scoring should be right here near the top. We'll see if we can get itemized cost moved up, because it is kind of annoying to have to scroll down this much. But then the other section here is the itemized cost section. So you'd click those little links there that will take you to those sections to fill them out. And then also from the My Application extension is where you would fill in some of the remaining like debt service information on the Proforma, any deferred developer fee payments, if you have a pilot or tax abatement, that amount, along with the document upload section. There are some additional spots, especially if you submitted an application last year, you will remember, we had threshold and scoring response documentation get uploaded in a different section. That was kind of to make it a little easier for us to keep track of everything. This is where we ask you to do the bulk of your threshold and scoring documentation, where to upload that. It makes it a lot easier for us to make sure everything is in the right section that it's supposed to be. If there are any other sections that you needed a quick refresher on, let me know, and I can try and go through those again too.
Thank you.
Yes, Zach.
If we've already been working on an application online before these effects took place, will they now show up in our edit application, or do we need to start a new application? Just a general kind of question like that.
Yeah, they should be implemented into it. So like for scoring, that's just completely new, so there's nothing that would change there. But let's see. So like if you went into your threshold tab now, if you've already created one, it should have already adjusted. The only thing would be if there's new content, you'd have to go back and update that. So for the most part, that would just be, you would have like this universal design and broadband infrastructure mandatory acknowledgements that would be not checked, that you would need to go and check off there. I think this is really the only page where new content was added to this initial section. So that would really be the only page you should have to check to make sure that you have that stuff checked off.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think we got two. I didn't see who came in first. I think Christine.
Hi, Hayden. I'm just wondering, are we still only able to upload one document at a time?
I believe, yes. If you're going through the document upload checklist, yes. And that is mostly because of us having you attach a document subheading to each document, so that we know exactly what it is, and it's not just trusting what you've named the document.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And Ati.
Hi, thank you. The applicant will be a subsidiary of a person. So as such, the entity, it doesn't have a tax return or financial statements. So usually what we do is we send personal financials or personal tax returns. Where can we send that to? Usually we don't send it on the app. Usually we send it to a person directly. Can we send it to you?
Yeah, Alan, I can't remember. Are we still, if we run across instances like that, are we having them send you personal financials?
No, we actually ask that you do still upload those to the to this portal here. If you're concerned about like security, I mean, we recommend that you do it as a password protected document, and then you can email me directly or anybody on our team what the password is so that we can access it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Danny. Oh, I got
Hi.
a couple. Okay.
Thank you for this. When it comes to submissions, do you also, I mean, last time I worked on this, it would produce a PDF. Do you also want us to do that and include that in our submission?
No, because that will be captured through the Form A. I think eventually, I don't know necessarily if we'll need it provided, since we also have the ability to generate them from submitted ones. That might change. But for this round, we would not need you to submit the generated PDF for the online application specifically. Let's see, next, Abigail.
Yeah, I am just having trouble getting access to the application. It just says kind of page not found. Who do I contact?
You
about
can
that?
reach out to me. Have
Okay.
you set up? You have an Access Indiana account,
I do, yeah.
and then have you sent that over to us of letting us know which email that was with?
No, I have not done that.
Okay, so yeah, just send me which email you used to set up that Access Indiana account, and then I will work with our IT team to get your actual online application account set up. They are
Okay.
technically different. So what they do is they
Gotcha.
use the Access Indiana account as kind of like the back end to get into the online application.
Got
So
it.
once we get that set up, you should be able to get access through I think it's called the LIHTC application in Access Indiana.
Thank you.
Yep. And Andrea.
Hey, for applications that have like home funds, development funds, um, how do you, that's why you go over to the tab and you click like the development fund, like I'm looking at the screen right now. Like,
Mhm.
would you just click on the development fund tab and is that opening up a separate application?
It should. If it's saying not eligible, I can show you where that is. So this pulls from what selections you make on the development information page of the main part of the application.
Okay.
So I forget that opens a subsequent thing. So you for those, you need to make sure that on this development information tab of the main application that you check off development fund here or home. And then that should give you access to, when you click those tabs later on, it will populate with the actual application.
And
If
then where
you,
does that save? Like if you need to go back and edit it.
yes, so it would be in that same section we were just in. So from here. So from the extension, you can go to the Dev Fund Quick Links or Home Fund Quick Links, and then that would let you go to a specific tab in each application to make edits.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Danny.
Do we, once we submit, do we get an email that says it's been submitted? Do we need to follow up with you all, or how exactly does that work?
Yeah, great question. We should have it set up this year to where you actually get an email notification just saying, I don't know if the language is 100% finalized, but just something as simple as confirming you have submitted your online application. I know last year there wasn't, and we didn't know that until I think after, and then everyone was like, reaching out to confirm it was submitted. We are working on making sure that there's an email that goes out for that this year. It'll probably just be something pretty basic, like I said, of just saying like, this is your confirmation that we did receive it. And then Andrea.
Sorry, one more question. Is there still like the PDF print off on here so that it's a little bit sometimes hard for me to kind of understand with going through this? I'd like to see like a paper print off of that. Is that still an option when you, and how do you get
Yes.
to that?
So you can do that from right when you hit
Oh.
just the, yeah, it's up here next to the edit application. It'll
Perfect.
generate a PDF of everything that you had made.
Thank you.
And then I think, unless Danny, you had another question. Okay, then Ati.
Yeah, sorry, one more question. So after we submit on the online application, how long is the review? Besides the confirmation, how long is the review will take that? If you guys need any additional information from us, how long when can you hear from you?
Yeah, I don't know. Alan, maybe help with where we have that posted, but we have our, I think, tentative round timeline posted
Correct.
somewhere that has kind of just the overview of the major dates for like when we are doing threshold to when you receive a threshold letter, and then the timeline for response there from there.
Right. Yeah, so we published already the board meeting date where we make our recommendations to our board is in November, the November board meeting. What we'll do is then once the round starts, shortly after you submit your application in July, we'll send a memo to every applicant, and then we'll have more specific information about when you can expect to hear from us on threshold issues, on scoring, and different things there. But based on the last few years, how we've been doing it, probably the first or second week, probably the second week of September is when you can expect to hear from us on threshold. But we'll make that official shortly after the round begins with a memo to everybody.
Thank you.
Terrell.
Hello, good afternoon. Quick question. I do believe I heard it earlier, but I got a lot of construction noise above my head. Did I hear you all say that you will make the recording available later so that we can go back and review?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We will post something. It probably won't be till early next week, but we will post one of these so that you can refer to it again.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it worked so well last time, so I will do it again. Any other questions? Okay. Well, there are just a few other reminders I want to let everyone know before we end for today. One being, I kind of mentioned it because someone kind of asked a question pertaining to it, has to do with accounts. If you yourself do not have access yet, or someone else in your organization needs access, the steps on that, I believe we have some older red notices that can be referenced, but essentially just need to have that person create an Access Indiana account and then reach out to me with the email that was used to create that. And then I will pass that along to help get your portal access created. I believe a password reset email goes out once it's been set up. The other thing pertains to application sharing. If you have a co-developer that is not part of your organization and you need them to have access to the application as well to work on it, you just have to reach out to me with the application name, preferably with the ID number, which is really just those last 3 digits, as you see up here, the 396, along with the development name, and then any individual that you would like it shared with outside of that, and then I can easily take care of that. One other thing being, When you get to the actual submission, the full submission section, which as a reminder, you have to click, it's up here in this section for submit application. It takes you to this screen. There's some just additional affirmations here. And then you click submit and it submits, but it's just a reminder to also make sure you paid your application fee through the online payment portal. I think we are still trying and hoping that we can get a link somewhere that would just take you, you could then click to take you directly there from this point. We currently don't have that, so just a reminder to make sure that you make that payment, because both need to be submitted by the application deadline. And then the last kind of just note we want to make that's not particular to the online application, but a few people have already reached out noticing it. If you are a 9% app using the Excel Form A, currently in the underwriting review tool at the back of the Form A, the developer fee calculation is currently referring to the wrong number. We are aware of this, and so we will make sure when looking at that we will do the manual check on that. Even if the underwriting check is flagging it, we're aware of that, but we just wanted to make sure to make as many people aware of that as well. So one, so that to acknowledge that we are aware of it, and two, so we don't have to get bombarded with everybody letting us know about it, because we have been made aware, and we will just make sure, or we kind of ask it, maybe make a note of it on the Form A or a part of a additional memo with the application. I think, unless Emily or Alan, I've forgotten any other of the brief little updates, I think that about does it. If you have any questions about anything else pertaining to this, please feel free to reach out to us. But unless, I think that's it. So thank you all for joining, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.